It is, of course, Pacific Mornings with Aggie here on 5:31 PI, 13 minutes past 8 o'clock. I don't know, we had a little bit of a talanoa earlier in the show about this, that controversy within our Pacific community has emerged online recently after a Facebook post about reviving the Tongan Tātatau was published. So we thought we'd actually bring in an expert to this talanoa. So joining us now for this is artist and master tattooist, and of course creator of a Small X Studio. So none other than Terje Koloamatangi. With that I say malo lane, welcome to the show this morning.
Kia ora, Aggie. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Absolutely, it is always our privilege, and great to meet you for the first time, Terry. And like I said in there in the beginning, a little bit of controversy online in regards to the Tongan Tātatau. If we were to get straight into it, I mean, history, a little bit of history behind it, if you don't mind sharing. Why did it actually get banned? Because this is why I hear why we haven't seen it so much in this generation.
Yeah, well, I guess we could start by going back a little bit before it was banned, I guess, and sort of look at how much Ttatau was part of Tongan history and culture prior to it being banned. I mean, some of the earliest accounts of European contact with Tongans sort of note the tattooing on Tongan people, and this is going back to like the 1600s, 1640s, where Europeans were coming into contact with Tongans and writing about what they saw. And also another interesting thing is that the oldest set of tattooing tools known that were found in the Pacific were found in Tonga. So. Wow. We have a long history of Ttatau prior to it being banned, and in terms of why it was banned as part of the Vava'u Code, I think again it's sort of the European influence over our practices, and the European influence on the Vava'u Code itself was significant.
Yeah. Nice. Terry, of course, You've been doing tattooing for such a long time right now, but if you see the differences between the Tongan Tātatau, then of course the Samoan Tatau, is there anything that sort of identifies? You can tell, that's a Tongan one, that's a Samoan one. What is it that maybe indicate to us that we would know the differences?
Yeah, well, if we look at the I guess the historical material, there are a couple of sort of key images that you can find, that anyone can find online on Tongan Tātatau. And I guess a couple of things to note would be, based on those images, Tongan Tātatau has quite a bit more black, a bit more uli in there. There's heavier areas of black. Another key thing is for men's Tātatau, it tends to finish above the knees, whereas Ttatau tends to go past the knees.
Nice.
So there's some clear sort of differences if we look at the visual information that's available, but if we look at some of the written accounts as well, we can see that I think another interesting thing that I guess separates Tongan Tātatau from Samoan Tatau is that it seems that Tongans were quite heavily tattooed on various parts of the body, not just from the hips to the knees.
Right.
We all seem to be kind of referencing a lot. There's written accounts by early Europeans, but also within our own stories. There's accounts of tattooing in Tonga on various parts of the body. I was just reading the other day, there's a story of Vainuku and the daughter of the Tonga. And so Vainuku is a young man who in the story talks of this pigeon that was tattooed across his back.
Right. So
there's lots of kind of interesting accounts from various sources that kind of point to those differences.
Your experience though, Terry, at being able to do a Tātatau, what has that been like for you though? And even for the person receiving it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, we are still I think we're still relatively early in our revival. You know, it's been going since the 1990s, but as time goes on, as more information becomes clearer, and as we make the work, we're starting to really kind of define, you know, what is Tongan Tātatau. Um, I think one of the really interesting things for me around the practice and around working with people is seeing what Tātatau does for people.
Yeah.
And it can kind of like bring about the shift in people's thinking, and it can bring about a shift in the way that people are in the world, and sort of think about themselves in the world. And I think that's one of the really powerful things about Tātatau.
Why was it important though for you though, Terry, to actually bring that and try and revive, you know, this old tradition of the Tātatau?
Well, I think it's an important part of who we are as Tongans. You know, it's within our history, and it's something that I think, as I touched on before, it's something that, especially I think for us Tongans who are outside of Tonga, you know, we have this. We look to various things to kind of like connect us to the whanua, to connect us back to Tonga. And so I think Tātatau offers us, in one respect, offers us that. It offers us this opportunity to kind of to reconnect in some way. And again, it's that thing. It can help sort of, I think it can offer us a way to sort of think and feel differently about how we are in the world.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what drives me around the work.
Beautiful. If you're tuning in, of course, we are speaking with Master Tattooist Terje Koloamatangi. Now, what are your thoughts, though, Terry? I am going to ask you about, of course, you know, the post that has been circulating online in regards to the Tātatau, and people's comments seem a little bit far-reaching with, you know, it just seems a big attack on something that possibly not many people understand. So, I mean, what have your thoughts been about that?
Well, I think what, you know, the point you raised is really important about understanding. You know, I think a really important thing for people to do, for all of us to do, is a bit of research before we put our opinions out online, particularly when it comes to something that seems to be right now quite a hot topic.
Yeah.
For our community, and for those interested in our history and in Ttatau specifically.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to know that we are all in the process of learning, and we can learn off each other, and be open to that. And I think that ultimately, as time goes on, you know, it will be Tongans who define and decide what Ttatau is.
Right.
And what is uniquely Tongan about Tātatau. And that's a process that we're kind of evolving over time.
I was going to ask though, Terry, you know, in your research and the things that you've understood about Tātatau, has that involved, obviously, you know, talking to the elders, you know, talking to the older generation who would have been able to pass that on? I mean, I don't know if it was just found in a book. I mean, how was that research for you?
Well, you know, a lot of the historical material, as you're aware, comes from European accounts. You know, majority of the material in terms of the research comes from European accounts, apart from one or two or a few instances within our own stories. In terms of speaking with elders, it's an interesting one because of the fact that Tātatau was banned, and because for a long time it was almost kind of a part of our history that was silenced in a sense.
Yeah.
And so there's a generation of people, I think, who for one reason or another have limited knowledge on Tātatau.
Yeah, that would be
particularly our older generations.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think the beauty of things like you know, being able to research and being able to have access to all this material that's pointing us towards what Tātatau may have looked like historically is important as we build the practice moving forward.
We've got to wrap up though, Terry. I just would love to know then if as the listeners are tuning in right now, what then would really be, I suppose, your key message in regards to us maybe getting a better understanding or the types of discussions we should have around cultural practices.
Yeah, I think in terms of those online conversations, it's always important to do a bit of research. Otherwise you can end up looking a little bit foolish. You're making these big statements that aren't backed up by some facts can always can backfire. So I think take the time to there's so much information available now. You can type in Google Tātatau, Tongan Tātatau, and you'll get enough information to give you a basic understanding of the history of the practice.
Nice.
And just keep putting in the time and the energy to do that research. Nice. And be open to the fact, like I said before, that we are learning and we are growing, and that ultimately it will be Tongans that determine what Ttatau is moving forward.
I like that. Wise words there, Terry. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I look forward to it's obviously the owner of also Small XA, so I'm thinking if I'm going to get a tattoo, I think I'm going to come see you now, Terry. But look, we just no worries. We appreciate your time, and malo pito for just sharing a little bit of insight into the Ttatau. So thank you again.
O fato.
No worries.